Let's head out to Eugene where we have Max Torres with Scoop Duck, and it has been a 5-star weekend out in Eugene. I don't even know where to start, but we'll start with Jet Washington, the number 3 ranked safety in America. How's that? I'm assuming these visits aren't concluded yet, are they, Max?
No, I think that most of them are still ongoing here, Josh, with a majority of the recruits on campus probably expected to travel back home later in the afternoon hours. So I think Oregon likes to maybe drag it out a little bit if they can, especially because some of these guys are coming from so far away. You really want to maximize that time with them on campus.
So how'd Jet Washington do this weekend? What's the buzz around his recruitment and where Oregon stands?
The buzz around Oregon and Jet Washington certainly seems to be growing, Josh, with the 5-star safety from Las Vegas taking his official visit with the Ducks this weekend. It was a trip, Josh, that wasn't really expected earlier on in the week. We know that he was out at Alabama, one of his other finalists last weekend, and then he popped over to USC for a little midweek official. Yeah. And then while he was out in Los Angeles, the news broke that he was going to be heading out to Eugene this weekend. So that development certainly makes me believe that this is a recruitment that is heating up for Oregon, and maybe he could be heading towards the finish line a little bit sooner than we imagined. He doesn't have a commitment date right now, but I know that he is one of those top tier targets that Oregon certainly covets here in the 2026 class, especially because they're trying to land some elite talent at safety.
Yeah. Speaking of elite talent in the secondary, cornerback Brandon Arrington, the number 1 ranked corner in America, number 9 prospect overall. He visited for the spring game, initially said it was one of the best spring games he's ever attended, but who knows where Oregon stands because it seems like A&M, Alabama, even USC in there as well with Brandon Arrington. But what are you hearing coming out of this weekend? Because he's going to make a July 5th decision.
Coming out of this weekend, I'm hearing that it's feeling like an Oregon versus A&M battle right now. I don't think you can count out USC. Obviously, they are trying to do some big things in this class, and SoCal guys are really a major priority for them. But I still feel pretty good that Oregon could ultimately get this one done. I don't have a prediction in yet. I'm not ready to do that. But Arrington really has been right at the top of Oregon's cornerback board, Josh, in this cycle. You got him, you got Davon Benjamin, who I believe is over at Texas this weekend. And then you can't forget about Kari Adams out of the Baltimore area, or maybe just Maryland. I'm not sure if that's actually Baltimore. But I feel like Oregon's right in the thick of it with Arrington. I think that things could be heating up with Arrington and the Ducks, but I'm keeping an eye on A&M ahead of that July 5th decision right now.
All right. A couple more 5-stars on campus. We had Tyra Atkinson. Tyra Atkinson, it's always a tough one to read. He's made his 2nd visit out to Eugene. Do you still feel like this is a long shot for Oregon? How should Duck fans kind of set their expectations when it comes to the Atkinson recruitment?
I think you could be cautiously optimistic with the Atkinson recruitment. I'm not expecting him to end up at Oregon right now, but you can make the case that Oregon turns up the heat and really tries to get this one done, Josh. He's only taken one other official so far. I believe that one was over to Clemson. But linebacker, I think, is really that one position under Lanning that we haven't seen that like top tier dude. If Atkinson were to commit to Oregon, he'd be the highest rated linebacker since Justin Flo back in the 2020 class. So I think that on the surface, it looks like a long shot, but with a strong official visit, I think that you could see things trend in the right direction, especially when you take into account the fact that Lanning and Atkinson have had a relationship, back to 7th, 8th grade. Maybe this is where we see those Georgia ties really come into play for Oregon.
Yeah, good point. All right. Edge, Richard Wesley back on campus. Kind of a weird deal because he committed to Oregon for 17 days about a month ago. Then he reopens his recruitment. And as soon as he reopens his recruitment, he's back on campus at Oregon. What do you make of all this?
It is certainly one of the more bizarre situations that we've seen here in the 2026 cycle, Josh. But I think Oregon still likes where they're standing with Richard Wesley. Obviously, he liked Oregon enough to commit in the first place. So as odd as it has kind of unfolded, I think it could be to their benefit that they get him back on campus after all that unfolded. They get him back on campus first, I should say. So hopefully they can kind of, iron things out and get on the same page a little bit here. But it seems like I would expect that he'll take more official visits throughout the remainder of the month. And maybe as we get into the football season, you have Texas A&M, Ohio State as some of the main contenders that we have kept our eye on here in the Wesley recruitment. but you never know what's going to happen. It feels like in the NIL era. So I think that Oregon certainly has Wesley as a priority target in this class. He's widely viewed as the top defensive lineman out west, and they're going to continue to recruit him as such.
All right. So one of the themes of the weekend had to be photo shoots in Oregon. Oregon stepped it up this year. I mean, here we were going to flash a couple of these up here. We were just kind of making fun of Auburn and what they did during their official visit shoots. And Oregon, I mean, Oregon's always had some great official visit shoots, but Max, are they making an even more concerted effort to take it to the next level here?
I think so. We see this with every cycle, and as these photos started coming out with the in the lab or mutant kind of theme, if you will, I was just kind of getting excited about it. Like who gets to make those calls? I'd love to pick their brain about it. But I think that this really just falls in line with what Oregon is as a program, pushing innovation, that Nike connection, obviously, and then also the type of athletes that they're recruiting. Like you want freaks or guys that look like they're, made in the lab. And that's certainly the case with some of these recruits that I've been covering since Dan Lanning got hired all over the country. You see guys that are flocking to Oregon to check out the Ducks. I think my favorite ones of the weekend have to be those Calvin Russell ones that got flashed a little bit ago with the steel plates. There it is right there on the screen now. I like those ones quite a bit. So we'll see if that, leaves a lasting impression on some of these recruits. But I think in the social media era, you can never overlook any detail. There's no detail too small.
Yeah, and you can tell they're proud of them because we've been sitting around here before the show started trying to find some of the various photo shoots from around the country. And I'll say not only are Oregon's the best, but behind the scenes, those guys are cranking them out because not everybody has their official visit photo shoots out online yet. But the Oregon Ducks staff sure as heck made sure that those photos made it out first, and you can see why. So Max Torres, you guys do an incredible job. A lot of info up right now on scoopduck.com. Oregon fans, go check that out. Max, thanks for dropping by this live edition of the Inside Scoop.
Thanks for having me, Josh. Appreciate it.